bully grabs black teacher by the throat in a lab. Her millionaire husband destroys his future forever. The sound of her body slamming against the chemistry bench echoed through the lab like thunder. Dozens of cell phones instantly rose. Recording the moment 17-year-old Tyler Brennan violently grabbed Professor Diana Washington by the neck and pressed her against the experiment table. "Now you're going to respect me," shouted the boy, his fingers tightening around the throat of the 34-year-old woman who had become his obsession of hatred over the past 2 months. The room erupted in hysterical screams. Some female students were crying, others filming in shock. But what no one expected was Professor Diana's reaction. She wasn't afraid. Her eyes remained calm, almost calculating, as if that terrible moment was exactly what she had been waiting for. Diana Washington was new to Westbridge Academy, the most elite private school in town. She had arrived mid-semester to replace the former chemistry teacher, bringing with her a brilliant reputation from Stanford and a professional demeanor that intimidated even her most seasoned colleagues. But Tyler Brennan wasn't intimidated by anyone. He was the son of Richard Brennan, an oil tycoon and one of the most powerful men in the state. The boy had grown up believing the world existed to serve him. At just 17, he had already racked up suspensions for assault, drug use, and harassment, incidents the school conveniently forgot after generous donations from his father. "Tyler, let her go now," shouted Jennifer, a student from the back of the room. But no one dared approach him. What began as whispered racist taunts had escalated quickly. Tyler couldn't stand a black woman correcting him in public, questioning his answers, or worse, treating him with the same polite coldness she gave all students. 2 weeks ago, he had jokingly shoved her in the hallway. Last week, he spread obscene rumors about her on the school's WhatsApp groups. Yesterday, he spray-painted racist insults on her car. Diana reported every incident to the administration. Each time, she received the same rehearsed response. "Tyler comes from a family that is important to our institution. I'm sure you can work this out like adults." Now, with his hands locked around her throat and dozens of witnesses filming, Diana did something that stunned everyone. She smiled. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was enough to make Tyler hesitate for a second. It was the smile of someone who had just been given exactly the evidence they had been waiting for. "You can let go now, Tyler," she said calmly, her voice steady despite the pressure on her neck. "You've already given me everything I needed." The boy froze, confused by her serenity, though his anger still boiled. "What are you talking about?" "You're just a—" "Be careful what you say next," Diana interrupted. There was something in her tone, an authority that didn't come solely from her degrees. What Tyler didn't know was that he was being filmed by 23 different cell phones. Every racist slur, every violent gesture, every second of his hateful outburst was being captured in high definition, and he definitely didn't know who Diana had discreetly called just 30 seconds before the assault began. A man who, at that very moment, was turning Tyler Brennan's life into a permanent nightmare. If you've ever felt the sting of being underestimated because of your color or background, this story will hit you in a way you may not be ready for. Don't forget to subscribe. Because what happened to Tyler Brennan in the next 20 minutes didn't just change his life. It proved that some people only learn the hard way that there are very real consequences for their actions. Videos of the assault spread like wildfire before Tyler even let go of Diana. Within minutes, shocker justice for Diana was trending on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram with millions of views and furious comments demanding his immediate expulsion. But Tyler wasn't worried. "Relax, guys," he laughed in his WhatsApp group, sending memes mocking the situation. "My dad already called the principal. By tomorrow, this will all be gone, along with the problematic teacher." And he wasn't entirely wrong. Richard Brennan wasn't just one of Westbridge Academy's biggest donors. He practically financed half of the school's sports facilities. His influence stretched beyond the school walls to local politicians, judges, and business leaders across the state. The next morning, as Diana organized her things in the teacher's lounge, Principal Peterson appeared, his face uneasy. "Diana, we need to talk," he said, closing the door. Concerns? Diana raised an eyebrow, her voice calm but sharp. A student physically assaulted me in front of 30 witnesses. What kind of concerns? Peterson shifted nervously. Well, some parents are asking whether you might have provoked the situation. Tyler's a good kid, you know. He comes from an exemplary family. The silence was suffocating. Diana studied his face with the same clinical precision she used to analyze chemical reactions. I see, she said finally. And what's your recommendation? Perhaps you should consider transferring to another school for the next few years. At least until Tyler graduates. Diana nodded slowly as though processing his words. But Peterson had no idea what was truly going through her mind. Memories flooded back. Of other times when powerful men tried to silence her. Other bosses who underestimated her resolve. She had grown up in Detroit's foster care system, facing discrimination and violence since childhood. She wasn't about to run now. She earned a scholarship to Stanford by fighting against teachers who doubted her intellectual ability. She completed her PhD in chemistry while working 3 jobs to support herself. And now, at 34, she had built a life that no Tyler Brennan could ever imagine in his wildest nightmares. I need a few days to decide, Diana replied calmly. That afternoon, Tyler posted a series of Instagram stories mocking the situation. When you're a daddy's boy and can do anything, rich life, no consequences. In the videos, he imitated Diana's voice, made racist gestures, and laughed with his friends about how he had put the teacher in her place. What Tyler didn't know was that every post, every message, every arrogant laugh was being carefully documented by someone who would turn his mockery into evidence. That night, Diana came home to find her husband, Dr. James Mitchell, working in his home office. The 38-year-old man with premature gray hair and intense eyes looked up when she entered. "How was your day?" he asked, but something in Diana's expression made him close his laptop immediately. "Tyler Brennan has decided to accelerate our timeline," she said simply. James leaned forward, intrigued. As CEO of Mitchell and Associates, one of the largest financial consulting firms in the country, he was used to complex strategies and corporate battles. But when it came to his wife, he knew Diana Washington Mitchell operated on an entirely different level. "What kind of acceleration?" he asked. Diana showed him the videos on her phone, both the assault and Tyler's mocking stories. "He gave us exactly what we needed. Clear evidence, multiple witnesses, and better yet, he continues to incriminate himself on social media." James smiled slowly. "And the father?" "Richard Brennan just made the biggest mistake of his life," Diana replied, her eyes shining with a determination that reminded James why he had fallen in love with her in the first place. "He's using his influence to protect his son, thinking he's dealing with a defenseless teacher," James added. "But he doesn't know he's dealing with Dr. Diana Washington Mitchell." "Exactly. And he definitely doesn't know she's married to the man who controls the investments of half the companies in this city." While Tyler slept peacefully that night, convinced his family had solved yet another little problem, Diana and James worked until dawn, reviewing documents, making discreet phone calls, and activating a network of contacts that Tyler Brennan never even knew existed. The boy's arrogance had already signed his social and financial death sentence. He just didn't know it yet. Every racist insult Tyler posted online was being archived by specialized lawyers. Every veiled threat he made in the school hallways was documented by classmates who secretly sent information to Diana. Every time Richard Brennan used his influence to cover up his son's behavior, he created even more evidence of obstruction and abuse of power. As father and son celebrated their apparent victory, they had no idea they were walking straight into a trap that would destroy not only Tyler's reputation, but also the Brennan family's fortune and influence, once and for all. Over the next week, Tyler Brennan was in his element. His assault on Professor Diana had become legendary among his privileged peers, and he never missed an opportunity to exaggerate the story. "You should have seen the look of terror in her eyes when I grabbed her neck," Tyler boasted in an Instagram story, mimicking the gesture as his friends roared with laughter. Arrogant teacher learned who's boss at this school. In the WhatsApp groups of the student elite, his messages were even worse. Tyler shared racist memes about Diana, calling her a lab monkey and a chemical experiment gone wrong. Each message was screenshot and secretly forwarded to Diana by students disgusted by his behavior. What Tyler didn't know was that every poisonous word was being meticulously cataloged by a team of lawyers specializing in hate crimes, discreetly hired by James Mitchell. Meanwhile, Richard Brennan decided to escalate his campaign to have Diana removed. On Monday, he marched into Westbridge Academy and straight to Principal Peterson's office, radiating the confidence of a man who believed he owned half the world. "I want that woman out of my son's school by Friday," Richard demanded without even sitting down. "I don't care what excuse you use. Incompetence, insubordination, anything will do." "Mr. Brennan," Peterson stammered nervously, "I understand your concern, but firing a teacher without just cause could lead to legal problems." "Legal trouble?" Richard laughed coldly. "Peterson, I finance 3 political campaigns in this town, including the district attorney's. My company employs half the parents at this school. Do you really think anyone's going to sue me for protecting my son from a problematic teacher?" Meanwhile, Diana continued her duties with the same serene composure that baffled Tyler. But behind that calm mask, she and James were orchestrating a counterattack that would make the Brennans regret every arrogant decision they had ever made. James had tapped into his vast network of contacts to uncover devastating information about Richard Brennan's empire. As a financial consultant, he had access to reports that revealed questionable practices at Brennan companies: aggressive tax avoidance, suspicious government contracts, and a web of offshore accounts designed to evade environmental regulations. "Look at this," James said, placing a folder of documents on the kitchen table. "Richard Brennan isn't just a wealthy businessman, he's a corporate criminal who's never been caught." Diana flipped through the papers with growing interest. Tax evasion, fraudulent bids, covered-up environmental pollution. How long do you think it would take the FBI to prosecute all this? With the right evidence and the right amount of public pressure? James smirked. 6 months to completely destroy his empire. But the most brilliant move was yet to come. Diana had discovered something even James hadn't expected. She wasn't just a chemistry professor with a PhD from Stanford. During her doctoral years, she had worked as a consultant for the U.S. Department of Justice, analyzing chemical evidence in corporate fraud cases. Her real professional name was Dr. Diana Washington Mitchell, one of the country's leading experts in detecting environmental crimes through chemical analysis. Her resume included the case that brought down 3 major pharmaceutical corporations and the scandal that exposed the water contamination in Flint, Michigan. Tyler Brennan physically assaulted the woman responsible for putting half of the country's corrupt CEOs in prison, Diana said calmly, organizing her files. And his father is trying to intimidate the same person who has direct access to the FBI, EPA, and the federal prosecutor's office. On Wednesday, the situation escalated. Tyler posted a video on TikTok mocking Diana by pretending to strangle a black doll as a prop. Within hours, the video had over 50,000 views, with comments celebrating the lesson Tyler had taught the arrogant teacher. Richard, proud of his son's creativity, shared the video in his own business groups with the caption, "My boy knows how to deal with problematic employees. What father and son didn't know was that the video was already being analyzed by FBI hate crime experts, people James had discreetly contacted through his Department of Justice connections. They're making our job easier," Diana noted, watching the video for the 10th time. Every social media post is further evidence of a hate crime. Every message from the father is further proof of conspiracy and intimidation. By Friday, Director Peterson finally succumbed to Richard Brennan's pressure and called Diana in for a final meeting. "Diana, I can't put this off any longer," he said, avoiding eye contact. "I have received direct orders from the board of directors. Your dismissal is effective Monday." Diana nodded calmly. "I understand perfectly, Principal Peterson. Just one question. Are you aware that firing an employee for racial reasons is a federal crime punishable by up to 10 years in prison?" Peterson paled. "What are you talking about?" "The report I sent to the FBI today," Diana replied evenly, documenting every threat, every political pressure, and every act of intimidation Richard Brennan used to force me out of this school. The report also includes the 47 racist messages Tyler posted online, the 3 videos of him simulating violence against me, and the recordings of our conversations where you admit you're firing me due to pressure from a donor. The silence in the office was deafening. Diana stood up, adjusting her purse on her shoulder. "By the way," she added with a cold smile, "my husband James just sent a detailed report on Brennan, industry's tax practices to the IRS, and I personally delivered evidence of the company's environmental crimes to the EPA." As Peterson sat paralyzed in his chair, Diana walked calmly to the door. For 2 weeks, Tyler and Richard Brennan had celebrated their victory over a simple teacher. What they didn't know was that same teacher had spent those 2 weeks meticulously building a case that would destroy not only their reputation, but their entire fortune and freedom. The bomb was set. The detonators were in place, and Dr. Diana Washington Mitchell, the woman Tyler Brennan thought was just a defenseless teacher, was about to show the world who was really in control of this story. The Brennans' worst nightmare was only 72 hours away, and they had no idea of the tsunami about to wipe out their lives forever. Monday morning hit the Brennan family like a hurricane. Tyler woke up to his phone exploding with notifications, but this time they weren't compliments. Urgent. Student assaults black teacher at elite school. FBI investigates hate crime. The headline was on every major newspaper in the country. Video of the assault played on repeat across CNN, Fox News, and every major network, with experts dissecting every frame. "Dad!" Tyler ran into Richard's office, his face pale with terror. "The newspapers. They're saying the FBI is going to arrest me." Richard sat frozen, staring at multiple screens showing his decades-long reputation collapsing in real time. His phone rang nonstop. Journalists, investors, and politicians he once called allies, now desperate to publicly distance themselves. "That's impossible," Richard muttered, typing furiously on his computer. "I controlled the situation. The teacher was fired. Nothing was supposed to leak, but the nightmare was only beginning. At 10 a.m., federal agents stormed Brennan Industries with search and seizure warrants. 3 FBI vans, 2 EPA units, and an IRS team surrounded the building, confiscating computers, files, and decades of financial documents. "Mr. Brennan," Special Agent Martinez said, showing him the warrant, "you are under investigation for tax evasion, bid rigging, environmental crimes, and obstruction of justice. You have the right to remain silent." Richard read the warrant with trembling hands. The document cited evidence from a federal expert in corporate crime, detailing violations he thought were buried forever in offshore accounts and falsified contracts. Meanwhile, Tyler discovered his life at Westbridge Academy was over. Not only was he expelled immediately, but no university in the country would accept him. His name was now synonymous nationwide with racial violence, and no institution wanted the backlash of admitting him. How did they know everything? Tyler asked desperately when Richard returned home after being released on bail. "Dad, you said you had everything under control." It was then that Richard received a call that made his blood run cold. "Hello? Mr. Brennan," said a calm female voice on the other end of the line. "This is Dr. Diana Washington Mitchell. I believe you know my wife, Diana. How did you get my private number?" "My husband is James Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell & Associates. You may recognize the name. Our firm manages the investments of half of your business partners. Or rather, it did." Richard felt his legs go weak. James Mitchell was a legend in the financial world, controlling billions in corporate investments. "What do you want?" Richard stammered. "I want you to understand exactly who your son has decided to mess with," Diana replied coldly. "I am Dr. Diana Washington Mitchell, federal expert in corporate crime. Over the past 5 years, I have helped the FBI prosecute 23 CEOs for environmental fraud. My chemical analysis has resulted in $340 million in fines and 67 years of prison time combined." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Every company your family owns, every contract you've signed, every penny you've hidden in tax havens, it's all been analyzed by me and handed over to the appropriate authorities, Diana continued. But the most entertaining part? Your own son has perfectly documented all of his hate crimes on social media. We have 47 racist posts, 3 videos simulating violence, and recordings where you admit to using political influence to persecute a federal employee. Richard slumped in his chair, realizing the magnitude of the mistake he had made. You attacked the wrong wife, Mr. Brennan, Diana said with a smile that carried in her voice. And now you're going to learn that some people have resources your arrogance can't even imagine. The next morning, the consequences multiplied exponentially. Brennan Industries lost all government contracts. James Mitchell had used his influence to ensure no public agency would ever do business with the company again. Investors withdrew $200 million in financing within 24 hours. 3 banks simultaneously canceled lines of credit. Tyler, meanwhile, discovered that his racial assault had become a national case study. Universities, civil rights organizations, and social justice experts used his name as an example of toxic privilege and racist violence. His academic and professional future was permanently destroyed. How did a simple teacher achieve all this? Tyler cried in his father's lap, both watching their fortune evaporate on television. Richard now knew the answer. Diana Washington Mitchell was not a simple teacher. She was one of the most powerful people in the American justice system. Married to one of the most influential financiers in the country, and they had completely underestimated a woman who had dedicated her life to destroying men just like them. We were the idiots, Richard muttered, watching his $500 million company collapse. We thought we were bullying a defenseless teacher, but in fact we declared war on 2 of the most powerful people we could have chosen as enemies. While father and son mourned their defeat, Diana calmly organized her things on her last day at Westbridge Academy. But she smiled because she knew her real career as a federal specialist was waiting for her call to return. The bomb had exploded. Tyler Brennan, who thought he could assault a black woman without consequences, had learned that some victims have enough resources to completely rewrite the fate of their attackers. And Richard Brennan learned in the most painful way possible that underestimating a woman because of her color or profession can be the last mistake a powerful man ever makes. 6 months later, Diana Washington Mitchell was exactly where she belonged, not in a classroom being disrespected by spoiled teenagers, but in the FBI office in Washington, D.C., leading the largest corporate fraud operation of the decade. Dr. Washington Mitchell, said the FBI director, handing her a folder. Your analysis of the Brennan case has opened investigations in 12 states. We want you to lead the new task force against corporate environmental crimes. Diana smiled, adjusting her impeccable blazer. Her promotion to assistant director had been announced in every trade magazine, with articles celebrating the brilliant scientist who destroyed an empire of corruption with surgical precision, James, now awarded multi-million-dollar government contracts after his collaboration with the authorities, had become one of the most respected voices in financial compliance. Together they redefined the meaning of intellectual power. Meanwhile, Tyler Brennan discovered that some choices carry permanent consequences. No university in the country would accept him. His name was forever tied to racial violence and toxic privilege. Part-time jobs were his only option, as every employer who Googled his name immediately rejected him. You don't understand, Tyler would plead during job interviews. I've changed. It was just a teenage mistake. But the internet never forgets, especially when civil rights experts use your case as an example in universities, documentaries, and lectures about how privilege can collapse when confronted with justice. Richard Brennan was serving a 15-year sentence for tax fraud, corruption, and obstruction of justice. Federal prison was a place where names and money didn't buy protection. They only made you a bigger target. My dad used to say he ran half this town. Tyler confessed to one of the few friends who still spoke to him. Now he shares a cell with a guy who stole cars. And me? I wash dishes at the same restaurant where we used to have dinner every Friday. Westbridge Academy went through a complete overhaul. Principal Peterson was fired. 3 board members resigned, and the school implemented strict anti-racial discrimination policies. A scholarship was even created in Diana's name, dedicated to low-income students interested in science. The most ironic part? Tyler would sometimes pass by the school where he once studied, riding the bus and watching young Black, Latino, and working-class kids walk through the same hallways that had once been reserved only for the children of the elite. You know what hurts the most? Tyler asked the court-mandated therapist he was required to see. She never called me names. She never yelled. She never lost her composure. She just destroyed my entire life by maintaining the class I never had. The truth was that Diana Washington Mitchell had turned a moment of pure racial violence into a national lesson about consequences. Every university that rejected Tyler, every employer who dismissed him, every person who recognized him on the street and looked away, all of it was the direct result of 47 seconds of arrogance filmed in high definition. The irony, Diana commented during an interview with Time magazine, is that Tyler gave me exactly what I needed to expose not only him, but an entire system of family corruption that had lasted for decades. He thought he was silencing me, but in fact he gave me the loudest microphone I've ever had. Richard Brennan had lost $340 million in fines and forfeitures. Tyler had lost any chance at a respectable academic or professional future. And Diana? She had gained a national platform to fight corporate injustice and had become a symbol of how to respond to discrimination with superior intelligence. The best revenge, Diana often said in her lectures, is never to stoop to the level of those who attack you. It's to rise so high that they can only see you if they look up. Tyler Brennan tried to destroy a teacher he thought was vulnerable. But he discovered in the most painful way possible that some people carry enough power to rewrite the fate of those who underestimate them. He learned that true strength does not come from last names or bank accounts. It comes from intelligence, preparation, and the patience to turn injustice into absolute justice. If you've ever been underestimated because of your color, origin, or social status, leave a comment about how you reacted and subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove the best revenge will always be the success your enemies never imagined you could achieve.